Hello everyone, so my name's Joe Cook and I was also here 2014 to 2018 and I studied French and Spanish. And currently I'm a policy lead in the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, so I'm a civil servant. In particular at the moment I'm looking at how we create cultural ecosystems, that's great museums, great artistic opportunities, creative jobs outside of London and the South East. For me, I definitely came just loving French and Spanish, and to be honest, I think I wanted to be a teacher most of the time. I was doing my degree here because I just wanted to keep in the sort of the teaching world of French and Spanish, and I loved school. But I think what it was for me was over my time at uni, probably worth saying I always loved politics as well. I was always interested in that. But I think over my time at Lincoln and at university, I started to realise how big the world was. And I think maybe the reason I was thinking of teaching was all through school, your school is your world. And then I came over as I learned and saw more of the world. Whilst at uni I learned there's lots going on in the world. And that's what led me to sort of look into government more and the different jobs you can do in relation to looking at how the world works, how the country works, how society works. And that sort of naturally led me to looking at the civil service and discovering it that way. But I'd say it was only in my final year I knew I wanted to apply for that role. So when I graduated, I had no job lined up. So I think and it seems to be growing more and more common, at least in our year and my friends. I think I've seen most people left uni without a job. Maybe that's changed now. But I was saying to Ellie before this, it was all a bit zigzaggy / wavy line to get to my civil service job, and that was probably one of my biggest reflections about thinking back to when I was 22 and I graduated. It's like never expect any job journey to be a straight line. People will offer you different things that you didn't expect, or you'll get something via a different route, and that's completely normal, and you always think everyone else got there via a straight line, and that's very rarely the case. And just in a nutshell, in final year I went to the university careers fairs. I think I had a careers advice session with the Central University Careers Service. I think that was something I did back then. But I knew I wanted to apply for the civil service. So in my final year, I applied to the graduate scheme, the civil service fast stream. Got to the end, didn't get onto the scheme. Then I decided to just focus on my exams, and that's what I did. And I said to Ellie, I actually got a bit I don't want to work for the civil service, they didn't want me, which I think is quite common for people applying to graduate schemes. And then lo and behold, then in the autumn they contacted me saying they had another scheme which I was eligible for based on my performance at the assessment centre, and I took them up on that. And over the period of me graduating and then that autumn, I sort of came around to the idea that I did want to still pursue the civil service. And all I would say to anyone is when you're applying for jobs, grad schemes or direct entry jobs, just don't let one rejection or want to knock you off course. If you really want to do something, there's many more ways to get into it. I think I can obviously speak from the civil service perspective. I think it probably applies to most graduate jobs. I think my main advice touches on what Ellie was saying around societies, but a lot of job applications will want to know what you've delivered. And that sounds, and I use the word delivered, that's such a workplace word, but I think there's ways why you're getting involved in societies or student politics or different student organisations where you can show how you've sort of worked with a team to change something or deliver something. So for example, when I was at Lincoln, again, I don't know whether these organisations are still around anymore, but there was something called Tell Street Homeless Action, which I was on the committee for. I was LGBT rep. Both those I let in heavily too, because a lot of graduate schemes are looking for those transferable skills around working in a group, solving problems, analytical thinking, communication. And I think you can show that via your degree, but what then will start setting you apart is if you can show it through the extracurricular stuff you've done. Or very simply, I have to say, having a part-time job, which when you go home in the holidays, you may have. I had that, was working in a pub, but I was able to draw on that for my job applications.
Yeah, great. And I mean, related to that, this question of kind of doing internships or doing a part-time job, like, especially with internships, how important do you think it is? How important has it become to have that kind of bank of internships you've done? Because I know a lot of students kind of worry a bit about that, and they feel quite a lot of pressure that they have to fill every available bit of time with searching for, applying for internships, doing internships. Is that basically a prerequisite now for both of your kind of industries that you would expect an applicant to have those or not?
I speak for mine first, and it may be different answers. The short answer is no for my industry. Like, again, if you was looking at an application, like, you're looking at people's transferable skills around communication, working together and delivering something, and you could have got that through a student society or a part-time job. I mean, if you've done an internship, you'll also have great examples, and you'll get some really good examples, but I don't think it's like golden star, which is going to like get you a fast pass or anything. I think people often get het up on trying to enhance their CV. A lot of this stuff's just good because it's trying things out, like Ellie said. Like, there's so many jobs out there. Any bit of experience just helps you understand whether you might want to do that job, and I think that counts for a lot personally for people. So that's another reason I think people should try these things, not just for your CV, but to learn about whether you might like it or not. Yeah, so I'll get into the details, but the one thing I wanted to land today was that, like, the civil service has got so many different jobs available. So, like, if you are interested working like for the government in like serving the country in that sense, like, go on the civil service website, because there's roles everything from policy, which is what I do and I'll talk more about, but project delivery, finance roles, commercial, lawyers, communications professionals, like scientists. It has nearly every job going. So that's the one thing I'd say. And then in terms of like the day-to-day for me as a policy professional, how I always like summarize policy is solving problems to improve society and improve people's lives. Granularly day-to-day, it's a lot of meetings. We have a lot of meetings, and in this hybrid world, it's a lot of virtual meetings. But I will say again, I wanted to land, like, civil service jobs aren't just in London. Like, you can work in the civil service in most parts of the country now, from Edinburgh and Belfast, Manchester, Bristol. But it's a lot in policy works. Sort of things we'll be doing. You could be making legislation. You could be working with lawyers on legal challenges to the government. You could be delivering policy through the big levers of state, so whether that's job centres for employment support or the prisons, or working with local authorities and other bodies and schools. So there's a lot of that collaboration and joint working to deliver a policy question. The other bit of the day-to-day, is looking at lots of different evidence and information to identify a problem, then identify possible solutions, weighing up the pros and cons, and then putting that advice to ministers who ultimately decide. I think there's three things I'll draw on. The first one I think relates a bit to what Ellie was saying, but it's, I think, doing any degree really, but from an arts degree perspective, that ability to synthesize lots of different information and evidence to identify a problem statement or articulate the root cause of something, and then develop different response. In an essay, you might respond, like, coming up with different responses to that argument. In the policy world, you're coming up with different ways to address that problem. But that idea of synthesizing information to develop an argument, I think, is done quite a lot in policy work. The second thing is critical thinking. Like, I think when I speak to lots of my colleagues in the civil service in policy, people, they enjoy that. It is very intellectually stimulating, thinking about these big issues which affect the UK. And then I'm going to say one more specific to languages, and you can all disagree with me. But to do policy well, I think you've got to be empathetic. And it's about thinking about people who aren't you. Like, there's loads of people that live in the UK working on international policy. There's loads of people in the world. And to do good policy, you've got to be able to remove yourself and think about other people. And actually, some of the best policy solutions aren't necessarily all about the hard evidence. They're about how does it actually work in reality if you're a person going about life. And that needs a lot of empathy. And I do think language degrees, just the nature of them, the year abroad, just communication, you develop quite a strong skill of empathy.
Do you think that your kind of what it means to work in those is going to change dramatically over the next few years? I mean, AI is the big kind of thing that looms over things, but I mean, are there ways in which your sector is changing? And I guess I'm asking in a way that I wonder if there is something that you think that anyone who is might want to apply for that job in that sector, what should they be aware of that actually these things are things to consider, because it's heading in this direction?
I mean, you said it, but I do think AI is that I've taken it as a target to try and get more familiar with AI and more interest and more inquisitive about AI. So it's never too soon to start that. So I do think it's no matter where you work, that is just such a big thing. And if you're someone who actually understands AI and can be inquisitive about it, rather than just talk about it in the same way most people do at a very baseline level, I do think you will stand out in any workplace, because it's going to change all workplace, all sectors. So I think that is just one thing, really simply. I think this relates to the question, but again, if you're interested in policy and government, I mean, an interest in current affairs, and I'd extend that to economics as well, is really useful. I really like economics, but my degree was in French and Spanish, but one of the best parts of my job is learning learning about economics and developing that. And again, it's not at all essential for a policy job, but I think if you'll do better at it and you'll show real commitment if you start to engage with economics. And then I think developing a political nous as well is very good. So again, although civil servants are neutral, we work very closely with politicians. So developing that through just reading the news or being interested in politics, I think will stand you in good stead. It's a very good question. I think there's 2 points I want to make here. The first, I'll answer the question directly. I mean, to get into the civil service, there's the FAST stream, which is the graduate scheme. And I should point out there's also an internship scheme, which you can find more information online about. Some departments then run their own sort of smaller graduate schemes, and either they take people from the main FAST stream sort of application process, or they might run their own application processes. I'm not sure how common that is now, though. That might have changed over the time I've been in the civil service. And then there's direct entry jobs, just applying for a job straight. So I suppose there's not actually a huge amount of ways to get in, really. Those are the 3 ways, I'd say. I think the point I'd want to land is that you can get in just by applying. It doesn't have to be a graduate scheme. Then the second point I wanted to make was the thing I think that makes the civil service application process, whether you're applying as a graduate or someone with 20 years experience, but the theme is it's going to test a lot transferable skills. So you don't really get things like covering letters and things like that. It's very much demonstrating how your experience maps onto things like working together, communicating and influencing people, making effective decisions. So I think it's worth, if anyone's interested applying to the civil service, go online, there's so much information, and really take the time to learn about what it is that the process entails and what's needed. Then just before I hand over, I think the other thing to say is people come into the civil service from a range of backgrounds. And it's just, like I say, at graduate level, it's from any degree, science or arts, whatever. And then if you enter in the civil service halfway or partway through your career, people come, teachers join, people who've worked in banks join, academics join, people who've been lawyers and want to change to policy join. The application process wants to attract people with diverse experience. Don't judge a job by its title or by your preconceptions of it. I think when you actually do your research about what all these different roles are, they're probably quite different to what you think they might be. And you might, something that you'd have thought, I never want to do that. If you actually look at what that job entails, you might think it's really good.